Hey everybody, this is Broxah here. Last weekend we had a really successful series against Golden Guardians. We won 3-0 and we finally qualified for Worlds. And I figured, alright, we made it. We actually qualified for Worlds despite a rough start in the spring split. And yeah, I wanted to change things up a little bit here on my YouTube channel, create a bit of new content for all of you. I looked when I had done my previous Q&A. That was like, I think it was 1 year and 8 months ago or something crazy like that. So I was like, okay, this has to be a good way to celebrate that World's qualification. So yeah, I'm gonna do a Q&A. I've been asking for questions on Twitter, and I'm just gonna read them out loud. I'm gonna respond, and then we go from there. I hope you're gonna enjoy. All right, first question. Did you see yourself doing what you're doing now? I would say probably not, or more like definitely not actually. When I was in school, or just generally throughout my life, I've always been a gamer, but I've always gamed just for the social part of it, to play with my friends, my family, and because I found it really fun and exciting. And even when I got to Challenger, even when I had been Challenger for 2 years, I never really considered being a pro player. I just thought it was really fun to play solo queue, and I enjoyed the competitive side of it. I enjoyed playing League with my friends in my free time, and eventually, when I was almost done with my last year of high school, it started seeming a little more interesting, a little more exciting to go pro, and that's when I started exploring my options and tried to figure out what to do once I finished school. And honestly, at that point in time, going to the university or continuing my studies one way or another simply got overshined by becoming a pro player, and here we are now. I've been a pro player for almost 4 years. Second question. How did lasagna become your favorite food? Already being hit by the lasagna questions, I guess. I shouldn't have expected anything else, should I? How did it become my favorite food? You know, actually, when I was younger, when I was like a teenager, my favorite food wasn't even lasagna. I'm pretty sure it was burger, because I remember I was playing football every Friday. Like, for some reason, every Friday night we had football practice. I don't know why. That's kind of weird now that I think about it, but that's how it was. And we had a tradition in my family that every Friday we would have homemade burger whenever I came home from football, and it was so great, you know. Like, can you imagine playing football, coming home, being so tired on a Friday? You have a late dinner, you have homemade burger. Oh, that was good times. And then, how did it change from that to lasagna? I think it's because the first lasagna where I was like blown away was actually one that my aunt made. Like, my aunt it's like one of the most godly lasagnas I can even imagine. Like, this lasagna is just, it was just way too good. And then, you know, whenever I would be at my uncle and aunt's place, I would always try to convince them to cook me lasagna, and I would always give them as many compliments as possible, and then eventually we would have it more often at home. I just started getting really excited about lasagna at some point, and then I guess my favorite dish went from burger to lasagna, and I mean, now I can't get tired of lasagna. Like, it's just too good. I could eat it every day, you know. I mean, I probably shouldn't, but I definitely could. What's the recipe for your ideal lasagna? Is there a certain way you like it made, or is it all amazing? You know, this one is really funny actually, because before doing this Q&A, my girlfriend was looking through some of those questions, and she mentioned this one, and she told me like, I hope this question is going to be part of your Q&A, because for me, as your girlfriend, it's definitely very important knowing the answers to this one. Is like the key in any relationship, isn't it? Like, knowing how to make the ideal lasagna. And yeah, I mean, I hope she's listening in, because here we go. Well, the ideal lasagna. Honestly, I like lasagna in almost any way that I've tried so many types now. I've tried just regular traditional lasagna. I've tried with salmon. I've tried with meatballs, with sausages instead of minced meat. I've tried with vegetables. I've tried so many kinds. But if I would have to pick one, it would probably be the traditional, like just complete traditional lasagna. The most traditional you can find. That's probably my favorite. How do you keep your positive mindset despite adverse situations? Honestly, when I was a bit younger, I always struggled dealing with frustrations, and I would have times where I would get, like, especially when gaming, because I'm such a competitive person, like I would get really mad. And I wouldn't really, I mean, I would control it, but sometimes I could turn into a little bit of a keyboard warrior. And eventually, when I got a bit older, I started, you know, I guess learning from my mistakes, learning how to handle my frustration better. And I don't want to say that I'm perfect at it at this point in time. There are still moments where my frustration, I mean, it doesn't really get out of control, but where it can, you know, where it can be a little hard to focus on the game, right? And most of all, I feel like I've gotten better at controlling my negative thoughts. I've gotten really good at noticing when I start thinking something negatively. So for example, if I'm in the middle of a game and I make a big mistake, or my teammates all die constantly and the game is looking really rough, I start thinking negative thoughts, and I quickly notice, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to think about this. I need to just go in my own little bubble, focus on the game, not think about anything else, and then I just go from there, and then I'll deal with my frustration after the game. And for those of you that watch my stream, that pretty often is what happens as well, that I can whine a little bit in the middle of the game, but when I see the defeat screen, that's when I look completely defeated. That's when it's over. That's when the frustration hits me, because in the middle of it all, in the middle of the moments, whether it's about League or if it's about something in life, I just try to just move on, get past it, and then, you know, at some point later in time, I can deal with the negativity or frustration. We have a very interesting question here. For those of you that don't know, this weekend we're going up against FlyQuest. And with that being said, I have a very interesting question here from a great friend of mine called Santorin, who is the jungler for FlyQuest. And he wants to know, what are you picking versus FlyQuest this weekend? And what pocket picks do you and your team have up your sleeves? I think we're just gonna move past that really fast. Oh my god. Maybe this is why I should have screamed Brand Jungle into the camera. just to get the free ban. Okay, anyways, what is the hardest transition going from EU to NA? And why is it not being able to find quality rugbrød anywhere? Oh, interesting one. So, rugbrød basically means rye bread in Danish. It's a really common type of bread that us Danes eat pretty much constantly, daily. Whenever we have lunch, we eat rye bread, and then we put whichever topping on top, usually some sort of meat. Yeah, I mean, I definitely miss rye bread. I haven't actually tried American rye bread. I don't even know if you can get it here. I mean, you probably can, but when I was in Berlin, I actually tried buying it at the grocery store, and even there, like, it just didn't taste the same. Like, Danish rye bread is just something else, and I don't know, it's just so good, and it's just one of those things that where if you're in Denmark all the time, if you don't travel outside of your country, you just don't realize how good this is, and then when you are without it for a month, you it's like losing your superpowers in a way, you know, like it's just all fading away. So if I ever make a misplay on stage, now you know why, like it's the lack of rye bread. How does it feel to be on a successful team in NA compared to being on a successful team in EU? How different is the competition? Good question, honestly. There's no doubt that we're a successful team right now, but I still feel like it's a bit hard to compare this current iteration of Team Liquid to any of the previous iterations of Fnatic I've been in, or compared to the most successful one in 2018, because obviously we are pretty successful. As of right now, we've won 18 games and we've lost 3 the split, but I don't know, I don't feel like we've achieved much yet. I feel like some of the games that we won were dominant. A lot of the games were a bit sloppy and a bit too close. We did win most of the games anyways, right? Which already speaks a lot, and which is already a really good sign, but I'm not sure. One thing that I do think is fair to say is that I do think there's more competition in EU. If I didn't say that, I think I would be lying. There's more really strong teams in EU. There's more teams that can make a difference at Worlds, at international events than in North America. I still believe that. And yeah, I don't know. When it comes to the competition and when it comes to playing worse teams on an average level, I'm not sure how much that is going to influence me or my team going into Worlds, because I've never really been in that situation before. But what I've learned is that a lot can change during a Worlds bootcamp, and I've been in Worlds bootcamps before where things were looking rough. We were getting stumped. We thought we were getting we thought we were just gonna get destroyed and not get out of group stage, and then miracles happened, and we still made it out. So I'm curious to find out myself what exactly the difference is gonna feel like once we get to Worlds. What motivates you the most to keep playing and improving every year? Is it simply for recognition and fame, the challenge, or something more unique? That's a very, very good question right there. I don't know what exactly motivates me to keep improving the most. I'm a very competitive person, so that's definitely part of it. I enjoy competing. I enjoy always trying to get the best out of myself and being the best version I can be, both as a person and as a player. I enjoy being a good, trying to be a good role model, trying to be someone that people can look up to. Not only in terms of being a good player or playing a nice Lee Sin or whatever, but also in terms of the values I bring as a person, and trying to bring something a bit different to the scene in a way, trying to bring something a bit different to the internet or to the online community, because I don't want to say that's the main part of it necessarily, but I do feel like that's something pretty interesting that I've been trying to focus on recently, to just try to focus on positive things rather than negative stuff, because today in this world, all you hear about is negativity all around. So right now, one of my main focus, and well, not only right now, but in these past many months, I've been trying to just focus on positivity, and just if something goes south, you just learn from it, you move on, and then you try to keep smiling if you can. But yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like it's a pretty deep question, and I just aspire to be someone that everyone, like, that I can be proud of, that the fans can be proud of, my girlfriend, my friends, my family, someone that everybody can be proud of, and that certainly is a part of it too. What is the hardest thing you had to overcome on your journey up? This one is actually fairly easy. Some of these questions are a bit deep and a bit hardcore, but this one is actually easy for me. The most difficult thing I've had to overcome is all the sacrifices I've had to make along the way. Right now, I'm sitting in Los Angeles on the other side of the globe, away from all my close ones at home, More than 90% of my day is being spent working, trying to become a better League of Legends player, trying to be a good teammate, and trying to perform as a professional, right? And sometimes it's really difficult for me to balance life, like balance work and personal life, and have time for both. And I've had to make a lot of sacrifices along the way in order to be in this position that I'm in right now. And I'm really grateful that my career has gone so well, but it certainly hasn't always been easy for the mass side of me to get the fulfillment in a way. Do you have any history with music? Maybe playing for school, for fun, for family? My whole family is riddled with musicians. I'm curious if you've ever played/play anything. So when it comes to music and playing instruments, I come from a family where more or less everybody, I don't even know if I can think of one person in my close family that doesn't play an instrument. Like, my parents both play, my sister plays, my uncles play, like my cousins play, like everyone plays some sort of instrument. Like, it's just some sort of instruments. And for some reason, I am the weird one that doesn't. I don't play any instrument. I've never really had any interest in it for some reason. I remember when I was a kid, I always wanted a drum set. And then my parents told me that I could have a drum set if I actually took classes and learned how to play drums, but I wasn't really that invested in it. I just wanted a drum set just to slam it a little bit, just for fun. And yeah, I don't know. Music has always been a pretty big part of my life, but I've just never been super interested in playing myself. I don't know why that is. Yeah. Oh, this is an interesting question. I mean, they all are, to be fair, but here we go. I heard you liked Disturbed. What are your favorite bands? I do like Disturbed. Disturbed are very great. That's one of the first bands that I really enjoyed. I actually have a funny little story about my love for Disturbed, because when I was in primary school and when I was in 5th, 6th grade or something, that's when I started liking Disturbed. And normally that's not really the age where people enjoy heavy metal music. And I was so excited about Disturbed. Like, at some point I barely listened to anything else. And I mean, my parents didn't always enjoy it, because it was pretty fun listening to heavy metal very loud on my speakers, and my friends listened to pop music. And I had a music teacher. He absolutely loved it. Like, he loved that I listened to something completely different. Sometime he even, we had to do some sort of presentation for the class about our favorite bands or one of our favorite songs, and I came in and everyone had to listen to Indestructible with Disturbed, and I was telling them about Disturbed and how great they are. And it was awesome. Disturbed is, I've loved them for so many years. They're great. But other than that, when it comes to music, I feel like my music taste is pretty wide. I like a lot of different type of music. Some of you know that one of my other favorites is the Danish pop duo Nick and Jay. I do love some pop once in a while, some Nick and Jay in general. One of my other favorites has been Tech 9, which is rap music. I like Linkin Park. There's a lot of Danish old school rappers that I like. A lot of just so much music in general. But if I would have to create a top 3 right now of my favorite music bands, artists, it would probably be Disturbed, Nick and Jay, and Tech 9. I think that would be my top 3 if I would have to come up with something just here out of nowhere. Mr. Azael with a question. Alright. When you were last with Fnatic, they were known to have the best early game in the league, and it was largely credited to your aggressive early play. What's the difference between your playstyle then and now? Is it perceived the difference to do with team or strategy or something else? Good question. There's no doubt that during my 3 years in Fnatic, I was known as being really aggressive, and I was relentlessly looking for ganks all the time, making things happen, and it was one of my trademarks. And here in the LCS, that hasn't really been the case, and I think there's different reasons behind that. Right now I'm surrounded by players with different needs or different goals, a team with a different mindset and different goals, and I've tried to adapt a bit, not necessarily towards a passive playstyle, because I have been a bit more passive than I would have liked to in some of our games, but to just pick up a new style and pick up a new way of playing the game and try to become the jungler that I've felt Team Liquid needed in order to succeed. And it has worked pretty well. We've done pretty well so far in Summer Split, so I'm surely not complaining. And I don't know, obviously players can change over time. Maybe I've changed a little bit, though I'm pretty certain that very aggressive, heavy ganking jungler is still in there inside of me. I think I've showed that in a couple of games as well, but most of all I've just tried to adapt to the league, adapt to the players around me, to the team, and adapt to a style and a way of playing that I felt would give us the highest chance of winning. And if eventually I feel like I need to whip out the Elise again and get some action going, or even on the champs I've already been playing, to just play more aggressive and play a different style, then I can do that. I'm pretty confident in my own abilities. I've played different styles throughout my career. I've played for such a long time, and right now I've transitioned towards a more slow and controlled Team Liquid style, and I'm pretty happy with that. What do you think the reason is behind the unproportional amount of Danish influx in the League pro scene? I've been asked this question so many times, and honestly, I would love to give you a clear answer, but I'm not sure. Maybe it is the rye bread or the rugbrød, as we talked about earlier. Maybe that's where the superpowers come from. Maybe it's something about the culture. Like, I know some countries have really brutal like school systems, for example, that are really hard on the students, really hard on the teenagers and you know, the kids when they grow up. Whereas in Denmark, it's also hard at times. Like, I've also struggled in school at times, but I think from what I've heard, it's a bit more loose. Maybe it's something about the weather. I mean, here in LA, it's like so hot all the time, and people are always outside, I guess. Whereas in Denmark, you're chilling inside on the PC with your friends, since it's raining outside. Maybe it's something else. It's hard to say, honestly. But I don't know. Like, rye bread is pretty OP, so let's just say that's it, and like, eat some rye bread, everyone. It clearly gives mechanics. Just ask, I don't know, ask Jensen. He's probably around somewhere. What champion that isn't a traditional jungler would you like to see in the jungle, whether it's through a rework, kit changes, etc.? I would love, I can confidently say this, I would love to see Brand jungle. Back many years ago when I was still in school, some friends and I participated in a school tournament. Yeah, we had like a school LAN that happened twice a year, and at the first ever tournament, I remember leading up to the tournament, I was like the highest elo player on the team. I was Diamond 1, which was rated really highly at the time. I mean, I guess it still is, to be fair. And we knew the opposing teams were going to throw some bans my way. And I actually prepared Brand jungle leading up to the tournament, and we whipped it out in the final, and it was so exciting, because back then you could actually play a lot more off-meta junglers than you could now. Obviously, it was a bit sketchy. Like I don't think I ever pulled it off in my solo queue games, but it was just so much fun, and I've always really loved Brand. And even now, often when I play with my friends, they're like, play Brand, or when you're on stage in this game, you need to hover Brands before the game to, you know, get into the zone, or lock him in, and you're gonna win for free. You know, this type of stuff. And we've just had this meme about Brands for so many years, and it would be so sick if I could actually play it and pull it off. Who is the king of ping pong out of your teammates? That's a pretty easy one. I think I can answer that pretty quickly. That's Jensen. If we play ping pong, if we're tryharding, Jensen is most likely gonna smash everyone, unless he has a really bad day. But let's just say Jensen and leave it at that. I like this question. This is where a lot of viewers are gonna shut down the video and never watch my videos ever again. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Yes, of course. There's no other way. Of course, you have to eat pineapple on pizza. You know, I always love this question. Whenever I get this question on stream, I always respond, because it's such a nice and easy way to trigger at least half of the viewers watching. You probably more like 80%. It's great. I love it. So let's just go with the biggest yes you've ever heard in your life. Pineapple and pizza. Go order some now. Make some. Get the pineapple going. Yeah, I could just see you turn around. What is your favorite dessert food? Love from Nova Scotia, Canada. Tiramisu. I love tiramisu. It's great. Which is actually kind of weird, because I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee, but tiramisu is just awesome. Like, yeah, that's it. Favorite ARAM champ? What's my favorite champ in ARAM? Usually in ARAMs, I love playing AD carries. AD carries are so much fun in ARAM. I would probably say Draven. Maybe Draven, yeah. I love playing Draven. It's pretty rare that I get to whip him out in my solo queue games, and most certainly it's probably not happening soon on stage either. So whenever I get into an ARAM and Riot randomly decides to give me a Draven game, I feel pretty happy. Okay, Mr. Vedius is in the house. Do you find that without my guidance, your Lee Sin has gotten worse? Or do you perhaps remember my teachings when in self-doubt? Good old Sensei Vedius. I have definitely missed you and all your all your teachings. Do I think that the Lee has gotten worse? This split we're 8-0 on Lee Sin, so I feel like it's probably doing alright. I just got play of the series last weekend as well, playing 3 Lee Sin games, so it's probably not too bad, but then again, with more videos in my life, it would probably be even greater. I probably can't deny that, so I hope you're ready for Worlds TL videos. We need you. Who would you rather face at Worlds? Fnatic or G2? Old team or old rivals? I thought about this before, actually. And it's a tough question, because facing G2 and facing Fnatic would be very interesting in different ways. Obviously, I have a lot of history with both. I have a lot of history with G2 in the sense that it was my rival for 3 years, and I played on Fnatic for those same 3 years, right? And most of my teammates are still in Fnatic. But I'm not sure if I would have to pick one. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would probably say Fnatic. Playing Fnatic would be really fun, going up against my old teammates and showcasing them what I've learned during my adventure over here with TL. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Maybe we're gonna meet them in the group stage. If you were guaranteed a spot in the World Finals and you could choose your opponent from any region, what team would you most enjoy facing in the World Final? Well, we just touched a bit on Worlds and potential teams with fnatic and G2, and it could be one of those, but honestly, I would probably say IG. I would really love to go up against IG in a World Final. I still have a bit of trauma or nightmares from the World Final in 2018 where we got smashed, and getting some revenge and having a second chance against IG in the World Final and getting that redemption against them would be really hype for sure, because that was they caused me quite a bit of pain, that's for sure. It was not a fun experience the way that we got destroyed by IG, so would probably be them. Oh, actually we have another caster. The casters are taking over today. What's one thing you wished casters vocalized more about players? What do you think we miss most when it comes to talking about individual players and their performances? Good question. I think there's two things that I would like to see more, or that if I was a caster I would try to focus on a bit more, that I think would be a good thing for the broadcast. I think in general there's a bit of a tendency, both in the LEC and in the LCS, but I think recently mostly in the LCS, because this split, for example, there's been a lot of new teams on the rise in the LEC, but there's often so much talk about the old organizations, talk about TL, TSM, C9, and oftentimes some of the lesser known or less popular LCS teams are kind of being overshined a little bit. And I think the split, for example, there were so many opportunities to create really cool content about different players, or to talk more about different players on the analyst desk or in games, and really create a lot of hype around them. Because there has been some hype about some players and some of the less popular teams, but not as much as what could have been the case. And secondly, I think in general sometimes there's a lot of, I don't want to say bias, but I think often there's like a bit too much tunneling in a way on a certain story. Like for example this split, I mean, then again I might even be biased about this myself, but this split, for example, there has been the story about me being a passive and useless jungler that doesn't do anything and that gets carried every game. And even in the games where I would actually play really well and where I would just step it up and, you know, be a big part of carrying the game, this story would haunt me, and the casters were a big reason behind that, just continuing to go on and on about how useless Broxah is and how he doesn't contribute anything to the game. And I think in general there's kind of it's just a bit too much tunneling in a way, just trying to focus on one story rather than being a bit more open-minded or adapting the stories along the way. And maybe that's just how I look at things in general, just trying to focus on some of the positives rather than negatives. So if, for example, if we are losing a game, or if we're struggling in a game against Immortals, rather than talking about how bad Team Liquid is, you could talk about how well Immortals is playing this game and how well they actually challenged TL, and how it was great to see this new organization that came into the league actually step it up and almost take down one of the top teams, right? Yeah. Hey Broxah, is there any routine you must do before game to get into the right state of mind, like meditation or something similar to reach a flow state? So, leading up to games, I don't have anything in particular that I need to do. I have a bit of something that I do right, but that's like right before going on stage. Right before going on stage, or well, I mean right now we can't play on stage. So let's say before going into an LCS game, I try to go into my own bubble in a way. Just try to get rid of whatever random thoughts I have, and just try to get in the zone, focus on the game, focus on what's to come, focus on the strategy we've talked about, my game plan going into the game, and just try to get rid of every other thought and just only focus on that. And that's something I learned throughout my first year in Fnatic, my first split in Fnatic, because back then I had such a hard time dealing with the pressure and I got so nervous, and we had a really good sports psychologist back then, who was still a good friend of mine, who taught me to deal with this pressure in this way, to kind of try to, you know, get rid of the emotions and just focus on the present rather than the past or the future. And it's a bit easier said than done, but that's probably the closest I am to having a sort of routine in a way. And then we have the last question. How much do you think mental health is involved in a good/bad performance in League? I actually think League is like 50% about gameplay, 50% about mental state. Being a good player obviously is part of it, and making the right decisions in the game is great and all, but if you're in the wrong mental state, and if you're frustrated or thinking negative stuff before getting into the game, it's definitely gonna decrease your chances of winning. And I usually like to tell people that if you can feel you're frustrated before starting a game, or if you can feel that you're a little tilted and things are not really going too well, then you probably should take a little bit of a break before actually hopping in, because being in the right state of mind and being mentally prepared for the battles of League and for the battles of solo queue, which sometimes is a bit of a rough experience, I'm not gonna lie. If you're not prepared for that, then one little thing is gonna go wrong, and then your mental is gonna break, and you're probably not gonna do very well. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was something a little different, something that I don't get to do very often, but I felt like I needed something else to celebrate us qualifying for Worlds, and to give something a little different back to all my fans, all my viewers who were watching my content. And yeah, I did my best bringing detail, bringing some fun and entertainment into this Q&A, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.